exist. If God does not exist, then what source remains for objective moral duties? Traditionally, our moral duties were thought to spring from God's commandments, such as the Ten Commandments. But if there is no God, what basis remains for objective moral duties? On the atheistic view, human beings are just animals, and animals have no moral obligations to one another. When a lion kills a zebra, it kills the zebra, but it does not murder it. When a great white shark forcibly copulates with a female, it forcibly copulates with her, but it does not rape her. For there is no moral dimension to these actions. They are neither prohibited nor obligatory. So, if God does not exist, why think that we have any moral obligations to do anything? Who or what imposes these moral duties upon us? Where do they come from? It's very hard to see why they would be anything more than a subjective impression ingrained into us by societal and parental conditioning. Richard Taylor, an eminent ethicist, writes as follows: "The modern age, more or less repudiating the idea of a divine lawgiver, has nevertheless tried to retain the ideas of moral right and wrong, not noticing that in casting God aside, they have also abolished the conditions of meaningfulness for moral right and wrong as well. Thus, even educated persons sometimes declare that such things as war, or abortion, or violation of certain human rights are morally wrong. And they imagine that they have said something true and significant. Educated people do not need to be told, however, questions such as these have never been answered outside of religion." He concludes, contemporary writers in ethics who blindly discourse upon moral right and wrong and moral obligation without any reference to religion are really just weaving intellectual webs from thin air, which amounts to saying that they discourse without meaning. On the atheistic view, certain actions, such as incest and rape, may be biologically and socially disadvantageous. And so, in the course of human evolution, they have become taboo. But that does absolutely nothing to show that rape or incest is really wrong. Such behavior goes on all the time in the animal kingdom. If, as Kurtz states, the moral principles that govern our behavior are rooted in habit and custom, in feeling and fashion, then the rapist who goes against the herd morality is doing nothing more serious than acting unfashionably. The moral equivalent, if you will, of Lady Gaga. If there is no moral lawgiver, then there is no objective moral law which we must obey. Now, it's important that we remain clear in understanding the issue before us this evening. The question is not, must we believe in God in order to live moral lives? There's no reason to think that non-theists and theists alike may not live what we normally characterize as good and decent lives. Similarly, the question is not, can we formulate a system of ethics without reference to God? If a non-theist grants that human beings do have objective value, then there's no reason to think that he cannot work out a system of ethics with which the theist would also largely agree. Or again, the question is not, can we recognize the existence of objective moral values without reference to God? The theist will typically maintain that a person need not believe in God in order to recognize, say, that we should love our children. Rather, the question is, if God does not exist, do objective moral values exist? And I see no reason to think that they would. Thus, if God does not exist, it becomes impossible to condemn war, oppression, or crime as evil, nor can one praise brotherhood, equality, or love as good. It does not matter what values you choose, for there is no right and wrong. Good and evil do not exist. Now think of what that implies. That means that an atrocity like the Holocaust was really morally indifferent. You may think that it was wrong, but the Nazis who carried it out thought that it was good. In his book, Morality After Auschwitz, Peter Haas asks how an entire society could have willingly participated in a state-sponsored program of mass torture and genocide for over a decade without any serious opposition. He argues that far from being contemptuous of ethics, the perpetrators acted in strict conformity with an ethic which held that however difficult and unpleasant the task might have been, mass extermination of the Jews and Gypsies was entirely justified. The Holocaust, as a sustained effort, was possible only because a new ethic was in place.